All right, here we go. I am reviewing Season 2, Episode 2 of Sausage Party, Foodtopia. One of the episodes that I was animation supervising, and we're going to be, if you haven't seen the episode yet, go watch it on Amazon Prime, please. It'll make so much more sense because I'm going to be playing it at 1/4 speed while I explain the animation and the workflow and thought process that we went through. From about the 3-minute mark to the 6-minute mark is what we're going to be covering here. So, let's have a look. All right. So we're starting out here with the fence, panning up, revealing Shopwells, the destruction that has happened in the previous episode. Jack is going on a road trip. He is looking for the Foodtopia with his buddies, Barry, Sammy, and Frank. Jack is suffering some... Oh, okay, let's actually look at this environment here. This set with this road that looks like it goes on forever and ever, that did not exist in our 3D scenes. All we had was a short little road that I think was about 5 or 6 telephone poles long, and that was repeated over and over and over. And in a case like that previous shot, it would just be all done in comp. They would just cheat it. It would just all be a painting to make it look like it was a much bigger set. Sometimes you see the telephone poles are pushed over. Sometimes you see cars beside on the side of the road. It gives just this sense of, apocalypse, but also just helps reduce the repetition. Okay, cameras here. You can see we've got this close-up on Sammy and Barry in the foreground, and he's flicking off the sprinkles that were in the previous shot, and now they're not there anymore, so we've changed models. This was one of the challenges with this show, is there was basically 2 types of cameras. There was close-ups on the small characters, and then there was a wide shot of the big Jack character, as we see here. Now this is... it's a necessary part of the show, where when you've got a huge character like this, a giant character that's 10 times as big as the other characters, you would have to think about, okay, how are we going to make this composition work? Like, here's a great example. We revisited a lot of these shots all throughout this first several minutes here, where Jack is carrying Frank on his shoulder. So getting this composition down and refining it and making sure, yes, we can see the entirety of Frank, but we don't want to be cutting off the top of Jack's head there, and we're going to play with focal lengths to make that all work. So it took us a while to arrive here, but I think it turned out great. It's a really nice middle ground between the two. Now, we do a lot of upshots here. We don't want to show the road because, like I say, the road was so short. And every time that we show the road off in the distance, it would involve more work for comp in the end. So we just didn't show it a lot of times. We would just do upshots. We would just show the stuff that's going on in the background. The blurring background really helps. We don't see that in Maya when we're working in 3D. So it's something that, we just trust will happen later on. And just like the lighting, it all looks terrific in the end. Now, we had a challenge with a lot of these characters because the rigs were the rigs were made by 2 different studios. So each rig, depending on which studio made it, might have different attributes and different ways of working. So we really had to learn how to animate 2 different shows and making this all work together. You can see the repeating background here. You can see the cars on the side. It doesn't look like it's repeating, and especially with the mountains in the background. A lot of this acting here, it's solidifying the relationship between Jack and Frank. And there's a lot of great jokes, terrific storyboards, as I mentioned before in this show. Look at that truck in the background. We didn't have that in animation, but it just adds this nice texture to everything. It just gives a sense of breaking things up and feeling like we're moving forward more. You can see, we do see in the background there, but that one wasn't too bad. I think we might have just repeated the background 2 or 3 times to make that all work. Again, love the lighting. Just these long shadows on the side there, that's working nicely. And you could even playing at 1/4 speed, it really helps see the lip sync and everything that's going on there. Another big upshot here. Avoid showing the road. Let's just show those crows flying around. And the idea was that we needed a way of getting Sammy and Barry riding onto Jack. So it's like, oh, crows, they're going to eat the food. Okay, let's hop on Jack here. Now, this introduces another challenge, and just have a crow in this other shot here, and then we don't see the crows anymore after that. This down shot of everyone climbing up, and the pockets. These pockets were a challenge, boy oh boy. We got these, especially Sammy. He's this big character. And to have the characters fit into the pockets, we needed to have the pockets rigged, and there was a lot of cheating going on. In the end, it all worked out, and there was, if you go frame by frame, if you're watching at 1/4 speed, you can see there's definitely some cheating going on there. Very cartoony animation. You see all the exaggeration here, all this big, broad action that's going on. And, you can see this joke here. I mean, Barry's supposed to be in one side of Jack's pockets, but just for the joke, we're going to put him right in the middle. And yeah, terrific mouth shapes. Mouth. Yeah, terrific. And look at the silhouettes there on Frank. When we've got a really wide shot like that, and you've got a small character like Frank, got to make sure that silhouette reads really, really clearly. Squash and stretch on these characters. A lot of zippy, fast action, overshoot and settle. Yeah, look at the stretch on Barry there. That's great. Nice overshoot going on. You can see the stretching out on the hands there. Let's just go back to that. Look at that smear on the hands. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, yeah. Terrific. Again with Frank. Frank sitting on Jack's shoulder was a challenge. Originally, I think we were thinking about having Jack's shoulders more square so that he would have a place to sit, that he wasn't going to fall off, but we eventually arrived at a pose where Frank looked like, yeah, he's comfortable enough, he's not going to slide off, but we didn't have to change Jack's model much, because he's not a heroic character. He's very shoulders down, he's an innocent character. He's not meant to be very strong, or if he is strong, it's because he's overcome other challenges. So here, yeah, with this wide shot and all three of them, it's compositionally this works great. The hill coming down there, I remember we had the flat road, and then we had a hill for the road, and those two, they fit together. Again, comp made that all work. Look at these sweat beads on Jack there. That's terrific. We don't see any of that in Maya. It's all added afterwards. And I mean, it's a bit of a conceit with all this, apocalyptic world. Like, this road doesn't make a ton of sense. The way that, the lines are, it's like, how did all this sand blow in here? It's like, this road's been deserted for years, and, it's actually only been days or weeks, but, yeah, it adds to it. It adds to the feel of it. We don't need it to make logical sense. What we need to feel is this sense of, wow, they are truly alone. They're not going to be meeting anybody else here. And Jack, I'm helpful. I'm like food to my mountain lions, crocodiles, other cannibals. Yeah, again, great composition there, having Barry looking up and talking to Jack. We can go to camera down, camera up. Jack's continually walking throughout all of this. Frank's got to keep his hands and his butt constrained to Jack. Lots of bouncing on Frank there. Yeah, lots of overshoot. Whenever overlap, whenever Jack's going to move, Frank's always going to move a few frames after him, just to give that sense of weight. Now Jack's getting really tired. He's just swaying and he's exhausted and he's not going to make it very far. Look at all the details on the road there, all those textures. That's terrific. Again, something we wouldn't see in Maya. We get to the hill here. Climbing up the hill, this is a challenge because we want to keep the character balanced. And you can see sometimes with the ankles, the way that the foot is rotating, it's a little, it's cheated for sure just to make that all work. But as long as we have the character standing straight up here, it's all going to work. There's definitely a cheat with the way the feet slip there, but it's telling the story and it works. That's great. The extension of the arms there and the overlap and drag with Frank. I just need a few seconds to get the feeling back in my legs and spine. I remember this upshot. We had to keep changing the camera on this 5 or 6 times. It was such a challenge to get Barry in there, to get the upshot on Jack, to not be crashing into the ground, to have Frank in silhouette. And the way that the lighting worked out, it accentuates everything. Look at the shadow of Jack's arm on his head there. That's great. And then Barry's got to go, zoop. And then, so the camera's got to pan down here. Yeah, this was a complex camera. No, that's not what I meant. Look at Sammy there, even getting him in the composition. Yeah, this was a complex shot, the way it all worked together. And of course, now we're getting into Barry in the cockpit, as we called it. And look how Frank was dragging there. Look how Sammy is hanging on for dear life. Running up the hill. He's going to be running up this hill for a while. Frank's on the shoulder. Sammy wants to join him after we keep running up here. Look at Jack's legs and the hips. I mean, this character is not meant for running. There's definitely a lot of cheating there. Frank has to be swaying all over the place. Again, the sweat on Jack looks terrific. All these cacti in the background. There's Sammy jumping up, joining Frank. Now, this was also a challenge. How are we going to fit the two of them on the shoulder? It was challenge enough just to get Frank on there. I believe we translated Jack's shoulder out just to give more room. But yeah, in the end it works. There's probably a little bit of cheating there just with how we have the hands on Jack. And yeah, as long as it looks like they're not going to fall off, that was the key to it all. Yeah, look at Frank having to put his hand onto Jack's neck. I remember Jack's neck was, moving, so we had to limit that. Again, I just love Sammy's, how we look through his mouth and we see the background. And now Sammy's going to go into his story. He's got this whole ulterior motive about pitching stories and making shows on Broadway. Look at how much Sammy can deform. It's a fun thing about these characters. And we're still going up the hill. We're almost to the top of the hill now. But look at the wide shot. That's working really nice with the silhouette. Yeah, as long as we don't see the feet slipping. That background in the back there over that first hill, that was all done in comp. We didn't have, again, we didn't have that in Maya. We just didn't have that asset. All the stuff in the background, tons of, all the wires and everything. A really nice blur to set some depth there. Jack's going to keep running along. This background, even though there's a shadow on the background, it's actually just a 2D background. It's made to look 3D with the shadow there, but it's completely cheated. This asset with these hills never existed in 3D. It was just a 2D image. And yeah, it worked out terrific. I remember we had to go through it several times just to make it all work. All right, and Sammy's going to be telling his story for a while here. Frank's starting to get exhausted with the story. Jack's just exhausted with the physical exertion. And the thing about the story is whenever Sammy's off screen, the story could be shifted around. The timing of it, what he was saying, and because I remember the first time I saw this, I was thinking, I don't remember that being the story, but it's only when we see Sammy on screen that we need to match the lip sync there. Again, Sammy standing on Jack's head, that's a whole different thing. You need all that overlap and drag. Frank, lots of room on the shoulder now that Sammy's not there. Always have to have Barry in the cockpit. Panning back up, now we're going to have Sammy on the other shoulder. Just always changing the composition, right? We start Sammy on the left, then we go to the head, then we go to the right. Okay, I think we'll leave it there. Sammy's going to keep telling his story for a while. There's lots of stuff coming up. Jack continues to be exhausted. He's trying to get the food. He's to where they want to get to go. He's doing his best to be a good food partner, but I don't know if it's all going to work out for Jack. We'll see. This was a fun episode to work on. Like I say, probably one of the lightest-hearted episodes in the whole Sausage Party repertoire. And you can see my name in the credits there. That's me, Animation Supervisor, Paul Johnson. More to come. That's the first 6 minutes of this, broken into 2. So maybe there's, 5 more parts to come to fill out the episode. Check it out. Like I say, we'll watch the entire episode, then come back and see what I have to say about it, because there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. There's so much time involved in all of this. Thousands and thousands of hours, hundreds of people. It really is a huge undertaking to get these shows done, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for checking it out. I'll see you next time.